The fake futurism of Elon Musk? What is this?
Inexplicably an exclamation mark. Today marks 365 Earth days since the spacecraft Dragon 5 touched down safely at Eden Interplanetary Spaceport. Their newfound capacity to imagine a future beyond right.
Okay, I'm skipping this intro bit because I want to get to the meaty parts. You see, this seems like a good essay. I just wanna get to the meat, though.
Elon Musk is something of a lightning rod for popular opinion, at least online, anyway. To his supporters,
Shouts out to my Oi bros, by the way. You guys are doing it big, okay? I love you.
he's a continual source of inspiration, a real-life Tony Stark. Not only is he a successful entrepreneur, but an innovator whose swagger is matched only by his unending ambition to make real technologies which previously were the reserve of science fiction. To his detractors, he's a point of ridicule. Someone who seeks to take credit for the work of his engineers and who often proposes solutions to problems for which better, more workable solutions.
Yeah, like a one-way tunnel where you can only drive Teslas 35 miles down the line, down that tunnel. Kind of seems like I don't know, a little bit stupider than making better use of said tunnels in the forms of getting a train cart, for example, and maybe putting it on rails. I don't know. That would be
already exist. A great deal has thus been written and said about Elon Musk. On this website, for instance, Oliver Thorne of PhilosophyTube has provided a great examination of how Musk tries to present himself as a kind of countercultural figure, whilst, in truth, being pretty much the archetypical capitalist in how he runs his companies. In this video, I want to take a different approach. For
dead naming question mark? This is an old video. This is from 2020, and Abigail had not come out yet. So calm the fuck down before you jump down someone's throat so quickly. I don't know how you would normally show like an older video of someone like PhilosophyTube who has incredible work pre-gender confirmation. Abigail said herself to treat her old videos as her playing a character. Oh, okay. Here's Abigail's take on her old... In light of recent news, folks have asked whether I'm comfortable with them sharing pre-transition episodes of PhilosophyTube about Amy Coney Barrett. I guess we'll just have to rigidly apply the original meaning, even if the facts have changed. Lol. For real, though, I'm cool with people watching old videos, but please don't do it where I might see the walking, talking corpse that used to present the show. Creeps me out. Oh, okay. Anyway, let's continue.
I don't think that those who hang on Musk's every word have simply been duped. I think that there are ways in which Musk is fairly distinct from the other entrepreneurial figures which surround him. And this distinction lies in his unashamed belief in the future. Tech entrepreneurs in particular often talk about disruption. They regularly try to position the various products that they're bringing to the market as having the potential to completely change the way we live. This lofty rhetoric, however, is soon undercut when it turns out that what they're actually trying to sell us is a microwave that connects to the internet or something similarly mundane. Whatever questions we might raise about Elon Musk's specific proposals for the future, and I will raise a few towards the end of this video, they're at least genuinely pretty bold. One might argue, for instance, that the underground roads that he wants to build as part of his Loop project would likely have less impact on congestion and on efforts to combat the climate crisis than simply laying on a few extra buses or metro trains each hour. Nevertheless, the idea of boring a web of roads under a city is, at the very least, genuinely ambitious. While I'll talk a little bit about what I think some of the potential social, economic, and political ramifications of the individual projects which comprise what I'm going to refer to as Muskian futurism are towards the end of this video, what I want to focus on, for the most part, is why Musk's vision resonates with so many people. If you're a Musk fan yourself, then you'll likely have your own specific reasons for admiring the man, and I don't want to take those away from you. But I do want to ask more broadly what it is about our contemporary moment and the recent past that makes Musk feel to many like such a breath of fresh air. I want to ask what societal desires Musk's invitations to imagine bold futures respond to. Frequent viewers of my channel will not be surprised to learn that doing so is going to involve a bit of a history lesson and a ramble through changing perceptions of the future from the early
Tesla tunnels with some idiot capitalists would come up instead of Metro because Metro is socialism. Yes, every part of Silicon Valley, if you guys have not understood this so far, every part of the tech bubble, especially in Silicon Valley, has basically been deregulation to the already limited amount of regulation that a capitalist bourgeois government would even apply to most industry. That kind of deregulation being sold as disruption. Uber, for example, is considered disruptive technology, right? Well, what has Uber done? It's basically cut out any kind of regulatory forces that would ensure that, like, people that are picking you up and taking you from point A to point B have some level of protection or as workers, and also they have to abide by certain rules so that they're not fucking murdering you. It's not like innovative. It's not innovative technology. It's simply just a way to cut out the prior industry that came before it that is still, unfortunately, abiding by certain levels of regulation. Also, there is still like issues with taxi licenses and medallions and whatnot, but that doesn't change the reality of what Uber is doing. Yeah, it's not even deregulation. It's sidestepping the law with innovation. Exactly. They don't. It's the same. And you see examples of this where they'll be like, oh, we have a disruptive new technology that's going to eliminate the need for like a market. And it's basically a vending machine. You know what I mean? You're like selling a vending machine, but when you slap on the disruptive sticker onto it, like every fucking nerd comes in their pants when they hear that. Oh, it's so disruptive. Oh, it's like, dude, it's literally a vending machine. You are describing a vending machine. It's not disruptive.
20th century to the present day. I hope you'll stick with it though, because understanding how we got to where we are now and how people's relationship to the idea of the future has evolved over time
and Elon Musk is no different.
Essential for gaining a fully contextualized understanding of exactly what Elon Musk is offering us and why our culture has, for the most part, so enthusiastically embraced his futuristic dreams. While many of Elon Musk's ambitious visions for the future remain at concept stage, there's one thing for which we have to give him some credit: the popularization of the electric car.
Dude, that's a pretty bad take. Pre-Uber, there was very limited ability to use any tech to request a ride. You had to sit on a curb. I don't know why you timed them out. Pre-Uber, there was very limited ability to use any tech request a ride. You had to sit on a curb and pray a cab would roll by. It's true. This is right. Or call in and schedule a ride in advance. Agreed that they've turned into a horrible capitalist deregulatory behemoth, but they start was something truly new. No, it wasn't. First of all, there was a disruptive new technology. It's called a fucking phone. Technology that combines the cab company, the pre-existing cab companies, with an application like that would have actually been the disruptive technology. But the real disruptive technology is allowing random people to be able to drive you around. Back in the day, this used to be called, in Turkey, it's called korsan, pirate cabs. That literally used to be illegal in many places in Turkey and in many other places. Like it used to be illegal to just fucking pick someone up and like drive them around. Do you know why? Part of it is because obviously they were in the pocket of big taxi. Okay, certainly. But the other reason was because, you know, there's no regulation. There's no regulation around who gets to pick who up. Like taxi medallions are a problem, certainly. Okay. But what you need to recognize is that like there needs to be some level of control over who gets to drive you around. Otherwise, you get into a lot of issues. God knows who driving you around. If you've ever been in a fucking Uber where the dude is like straight up on his fucking phone, swiping right on Tinder and like trying to set up a booty call, going 75 miles on a 35, you'll know what I mean, you know? And obviously cab drivers are fucking crazy too, but at least there's like one level of additional layer of protection in that situation. Before Uber, you had to call a cab and pay at least $30. Now with Uber, you use an app and pay at least $30. Yeah. Airbnb is a great example, right? Airbnb, another great example, absolutely eviscerated the housing market. It was just an application that allowed you to, again, sidestep prior zoning, like prior regulations that made it so that you couldn't just like randomly fucking purchase a bunch of properties and then use them as like short-term rental units. Okay, I prefer being able to order an Uber in minutes for a fraction of the price. I like the amenities that Uber offers. What I don't like is how Uber is offering said amenities. They're doing it, but the people that are paying the costs are the drivers themselves. And they would not do it unless they were incredibly desperate. So the more desperate a working class becomes, the more servile they become, and the more you can take advantage of said working class. Uber is a great example of this.
2019 paper summarizing a study into consumer perceptions of electric vehicles, Zoe Long et al. Wrote that several participants explained that Tesla changed their perceptions that electric cars are slow, ugly, have limited range, and not fun to drive. Several participants noted that Tesla is cool, and that owning one communicates a symbolic message to others. As recently as a decade ago, electric cars were seen as pretty lame. Their quietness and eco-credentials were the antithesis of the kind of vehicles that were fetishized in the Fast and Furious franchise, or in games such as Gran Turismo, Forza, and Grand Theft Auto. Tesla's interventions in the market, however, have changed all of this. Electric cars are now not only more widely available, they're also seen as pretty cool. Of course, neither Elon Musk nor Tesla invented the electric vehicle. Their success lies in having changed the popular perception of an already existing technology. And in this, Musk has more than a little in common with the original automobile entrepreneur, Henry Ford. Similarly to Musk, Henry Ford did not invent the car. Cars had been sold commercially for more than a decade prior to the founding of the Ford Motor Company in 1903. Early automobiles, however, were expensive, hard to come by, and often highly unreliable. It was only with the launch of the Ford Model T in 1908 that the motor car became the middle class's preferred means of transport.
Henry Ford and Elon Musk, you know, just advocates for a different way of organizing, you know, just actually, I don't know. I don't want to say that Elon Musk is an apartheid fan. OK, I'm not going to say that. But his family, his dad, at least, certainly took advantage of the lack of protections afforded to black people in the countries that he operated in. So there's that. Henry Ford also is very famously pro apartheid, before apartheid. I mean, he kind of was like big guy, loved pamphlets, loved giving pamphlets to people about Jewish people, and also, you know, wasn't exactly, he was a big fan of Hitler, or sorry, Hitler was a big fan of him.
Transportation. The Model T was not only more reliable, but quicker and cheaper to produce, thus meaning that there were more of them available and that they were cheaper to buy. While innovations in the internal engineering of the car likely also played a role, most of this was made possible by the Ford company's innovations in the process of manufacture. Ford used machines to ensure consistency across parts, and rather than having one highly skilled technician assemble the pieces together, broke the assembly process down into individual tasks, which could each be performed by a worker who only needed to be trained in that specific task. This method of manufacture would come to be known as the Fordist model of production, and would...
It's pretty funny because, like, so this was actually disruptive. Like, that is real disruption. That's real innovation. That was incredibly important, okay? Profoundly important. However, having said that, he was also a union buster and a fan of Nazis.
Fundamentally alter how goods were produced the world over. There are further parallels with Musk and Tesla in the present day here too. Although it's not been entirely without its problems, Musk has sought to automate as much of the car manufacturing process as possible, in order to similarly increase manufacturing speed and drive down costs. What's more instructive in our attempt to understand the appeal of Muskian futurism in the present day than Ford's technical innovations, however, is the broader cultural atmosphere of the time in which he was working. 2 years after the Ford
only gave the 40-hour work week after the workers threatened to burn his factory down if he didn't. Yeah. Why did they just not idly sit around and thank Henry Ford every day for being magnanimous enough to offer them a simple job? So dumb.
Ford Motor Company began production of the Model T in Detroit. The Italian poet Filippo Marinetti wrote a short document called The Foundation and Manifesto of Futurism. This manifesto, which was shortly published on the front page of the French newspaper Le Figaro, decried futile veneration of the past and exhorted the reader to embrace speed, light, creative destruction, and, above all else, the possibilities of the future yet to come. Marinetti's document set the stage for an artistic and social movement known, as the title of the manifesto would suggest, as Futurism. In his desire to break with the past and look excitedly towards the future, however, Marinetti also ably summed up what we might call the spirit of the age. For human beings haven't always believed in the future. Certainly, people have always known that each day, week, year, and decade would be followed by another. Nevertheless, the future hasn't always been viewed as a realm of possibilities, and our journey towards it has not always been viewed as a positive. The Christian faith, for instance, has often seen the passage of time as a negative, as a progressive journey away from the innocence of the Garden of Eden and the Word of God. Across art, industry, and politics, however, during the early 20th century, the future came to be celebrated, fetishized even. We can see this in the economic sphere, with industrialists such as Ford racing to find ways of making goods cheaper and of higher quality. We see it in the cultural sphere too. Following Marinetti, artists of all forms and disciplines constantly published manifestos detailing how they would tear up previous expectations.
I have this painting. I had this painting when I was younger in my room. I don't know why.
Of what art could and should be. We see it in the political sphere, in which followers of ideologies including communism, fascism, and even the dominant creeds of liberalism and capitalism dreamt up new ways of structuring society. Across each of these spheres, we see attempts to imagine bold futures in which society is almost unrecognizable from the present. All of this is detailed in Franco Berardi's 2011 book, After the Future, in which he christens the 20th century the century that trusted in the future. He writes that the 20th century is pervaded by a religious belief in the future. This belief was perhaps put under some strain by the horrific consequences of fascism in Europe and of Stalinism in the Soviet Union. Nevertheless, after the Second World War, it continued on relatively unabated. One only has to think of the space race, at the heart of which was a utopian, futuristic vision of humanity conquering the stars. Or, in the UK, Harold Wilson's declaration that the country would embrace the white heat of technology and undergo a scientific revolution. If such bold appeals to the future existed throughout the 20th century, then why is it that Elon Musk's proposals often feel so unique in the present day? For, again, whatever we think of his specific proposals, the unashamed manner in which Musk dares to dream of a future which is on some level different to the present day certainly stands out. And this clearly says something about the way in which the future is viewed elsewhere in our culture, or at least has been viewed until recently. In order to understand why Muskian futurism often seems so unusual in the present, we therefore need to understand what happened in the interim between the bold dreaming of the 20th century and our present situation, what Berardi refers to as the slow cancellation of the future. Starting in the late 1970s and early 1980s, the undying belief in the future which dominated the 20th century began to steadily decline. Perhaps this was the result of sheer exhaustion. Perhaps this was a result of the economic crises which dominated the period. Either way,
I just
we can
want to hear
identify
about
this fading belief in
I want to just hear about like where is Muskian futurism? Okay, that's what I want to know. Don't get mad at me, guys, but like there's a lot of news that I want to cover, so I'm gonna skip.
To ask what its appeal is and what other social, political, economic, and cultural movements it might have something in common with.
But the video is The Fake Futurism of Elon Musk by Tom Nicholas. So if you guys want to watch that, you can. I just want to see what he has to say about Elon Musk because there's more I need to.
I want to end by making some observations about Musk's projects themselves. A few weeks back, Musk posted a rendering of the plans for Central Hall Station, one of the stops in the Las Vegas Convention Center loop tunnel system, which, according to an article by Mike Brown for Inverse, is designed to take 4,400 attendees per hour in one of two directions over a distance of nearly a mile. The responses to Musk's tweet were filled with people comparing it to other forms of transportation. Many pointed out, for instance, that each car can only take 5 passengers, with the proposed minivan-type pods only being able to take 12. When we take into account the fact that most metro trains can carry more than 1,000 people at any one time, the loop system thus seems to be a little bit lacking. Yet, I don't think this is a bug, but a feature. In a 2018 episode of Star Trek Discovery, Musk was mentioned as an example of an innovative pioneer. Now, I've never actually watched an episode of Star Trek, but the world of the show is, I'm told, relatively utopian. In his book Four Futures, Peter
quite literally communist.
Phrase uses it as an example of a potential future in which both scarcity and social hierarchy have been eliminated.
It's the basis
he writes
of
that
communist
we
thought.
could indeed call it a communist society,
Yes.
in the sense that Marx used the term. A world run according to the principle, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need.
No, it is. Star Trek,
I mean, I
OG
don't
Star Trek was quite literally a communist utopian society. That's what the Federation was.
think anyone's under the
I wasn't even like a big fan or anything, but even I knew that.
impression that Musk is any form of communist, although he did once claim to be a socialist and he evidently has a deep understanding of Marx's work. Nevertheless, I do think we can often fall into the trap of assuming that Elon Musk's various projects are about building a future in which, as in Star Trek, we'll all share. When we see mock-ups of the loop system or hear of colonies on Mars, we assume them to be intended to serve everyone and to praise them on that basis. I think this is a mistake, for I don't think Muskian futurism is intended to serve everyone. I think the limited capacity of the loop system is a central feature. This is not a mass public transportation system, this is a proposal for a series of gilded corridors which enable elites such as Musk to get to their destinations quicker and without having to mix with the rest of us. The colonies on Mars, too, are not a futuristic vision of new life for the many, but a means for the few to
That's my favorite part about fucking Musk fans, dude. Like, Musk fanboys think that Elon Musk is the Tony Stark that is, like, going to save everyone. Meanwhile, he's not. He's just gonna save him. If he can, that is. Well, he's also, like, dog shit and just over-promises and never actually delivers because his stands, like, his fucking fully grown adult stands, unironically, think that, he can't do anything wrong. But he is also kind of dog shit with actual technological achievements for the most part. Like, a lot of promises. Like, the Neuralink is a great example of this. It's just like, so far, all we've gotten is ethical misconduct and monkey genocide out of the Neuralink project. Basically living the life of a fucking comic book supervillain. And all of these fucking dummies think that he's going to save them. No, dude. Elon Musk and a lot of the technological achievements that are supposed to make our lives easier have historically not turned into making our lives easier. The advent of the phone, the fact that you can have supercomputers basically in your pocket now only make you 24/7 accessible to your bosses. It makes monitoring your behavior easier. They use all of that information to make you more servile, okay? To make you subservient. And a lot of these Elon Musk fanboys are the most servile motherfuckers out there, and they don't even recognize it. They're championing and banging the fucking drums for what they perceive to be their own salvation because they've unfortunately misunderstood their position in society. They do not recognize that they themselves are workers, and class mobility is increasingly more difficult for the average American worker. They think, if I look up to someone like Elon, I too one day will be like a multimillionaire just like him, or a billionaire just like him. When in fact, he's selling you a fucking vision where you're going to continue being servile. He's selling you a dream, and that dream is never going to be achieved by someone like you, specifically because the structures that he is reinforcing and the inequality that he is normalizing every fucking day is what is making it impossible for you to achieve even a fraction of emancipation.
escape the effects of the climate crisis.
Telling me communism, if I preach it, I can have a big, lovely mansion too. I will never tell you that. And that's the saddest part. I'm very honest with you. Okay, there's nothing wrong with dreaming, for the record, but look at fucking false prophets and recognize that like your skepticism should be afforded to false prophets, snake oil salesmen, if you will. I myself have never told you that. I've never been like, oh man, you know, you too can sell communism one day and have a big lovely mansion too. I've never said that. Elon sucks. Keep donating to Nico, Hasan, and BLM. Like, people don't donate to me because I'm like offering them some kind of fucking communist utopia liberation. People donate to me because they see me as an entertainer who has an approach and ideas that they recognize within themselves. Okay, I am communicating the anxieties that they themselves feel. In a lot of instances, I've maybe even moved them away from having prior false notions like thinking that they're fucking one day going to be a billionaire, or they are all themselves temporarily embarrassed billionaires right now. It's entertainment and sometimes educational. That's the reason why people willingly give money to me. And also to avoid the top of the hour ad break. I understand it. Look, you want to shoot the messenger because that feels better for you. I want to believe that the world is a certain way and I can overcome said shortcomings. I'm built differently. And this fucking asshole is just like lying to me, telling me that the world is not the way that I perceive it. The world is not the way that like I've been taught it was. And change is scary. Change can be awful. That's precisely why, you resist it, and you don't want to think about it beyond. You don't want to think like you're in a position that you're in as a consequence of the way that we have organized society. So you fucking lash out. If they don't think they'll be billionaires, they think they're being exploited. They think they're being exploited is somehow fair. Yes.
Where the egalitarian mask of Muskian futurism slipped most obviously was in the announcement of the Cybertruck. A bulletproof, supposedly solar-powered electric pickup truck. We often think of electric vehicles as being intended to stave off the climate crisis, although whether they're the best means of doing so is itself debatable. This vehicle, however, is not a vehicle for stopping the coming of the end times. This is an early concept of a vehicle for the end times. Speaking to Jay Leno about the Cybertruck, Musk himself stated that we want to be a leader in apocalypse technology. This then is a vehicle for the elite to traverse a world which is both ecologically devastated and in which there is likely to be increasing hostility towards them. So, to conclude, Musk's vision of the future may be bold. Muskian futurism may, on the surface, fulfill a present desire to believe in the future again. To imagine how human ingenuity might be harnessed in order to overcome the problems of the present and to fundamentally reshape society. The pressing question to ask of these projects, however, is, to my mind, not what their logistical viability might be, but who they're for. To argue that Musk's proposals do not solve the problems they are intended to solve often leads down a path of forcing people to make a choice between the future and the present. And things are not so binary. A better future is possible. The challenge lies in trying to articulate one that is as bold as that offered by Elon Musk, but is one in which we can all share.
I get the underlying argument. He's right. I mean, basically what he's saying is something I talk about with automation all the time. I love automation. I am never like anti-automation, right? But thinking that automation is going to magically bring about a communist utopia in a post-scarcity world is actually a foolish endeavor, considering that all technological achievements thus far in a capitalist organization of the economy have only worked to make us more subservient and to make us better fucking workers. It's a way to extract even more value from the labor force. So what you actually have to change alongside with automation is the organization of the economy. Because no matter what happens, the distribution of profits and the extraction of labor value from the proletariat is at the heart of the way we've organized society. And until that changes, those profit margins are going to get slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. We're going to look for new methods of extraction instead of opening up people's lives so they can feel more comfortably. You're still going to have to clean the toilets, okay? Someone's going to always have to clean the toilets. And the only way to force you into that position is by ensuring that there is an unequal class system where you have a budget shortfall built into your existence in the form of student loan debts, in the form of you know, how expensive it is to just be a fucking poor person. That's the only way that you will continue taking these shit jobs, because there's no other opportunity for your survival. Just a cog in the machine. And without fundamentally altering the way that we have a relationship with our current means of production, we will never be able to change that distribution of power and that distribution of capital. That's not gonna happen. The only way to do that is by slowly but surely building some kind of class solidarity, have a little bit of class recognition, at least a crumb, a fraction that the billionaires certainly have, right? There's so much class solidarity amongst the billionaires. There's so much class solidarity among the bourgeois. Working class does not have that. Constantly fucking eating each other alive for no fucking reason. Technology is wonderful. It's supposed to make our lives better. But under capitalism, technology is used to work at the behest of improving profit margins. And without solving that, yeah, UBI seems like a great idea, but without solving that underlying power issue, okay, without reconfiguring, I guess, the distribution of power and giving more power to the broader majority, the actual 99%, the working class, there will never be change. You're just going to keep living in a fucking shittier and shittier existence. The next generation is going to be worse off than you, while you just have like cooler things to consume. You know what I mean? Thinking that like, oh no, life is actually a lot better. A landlord charging you extra 1K after you get your UBI. Yep. Meanwhile, the fucking dude who's telling you that this is the case, and you are the only person who could at least like effectively combat this, if you are united and working towards the common goal of emancipation, is the guy you see as a fucking enemy. If only I were to just say like, nah, dude, things are actually fucking sick. We live in the greatest society of all time. Historically speaking, technological achievements have made your life so much better. You're not oppressed if you can go get a fucking Big Mac at McDonald's. Food deserts are not a real thing, okay? It's fucking bullshit. Now we have a problem with like people being too fat, whereas like back in the day, people were too skinny. They were dying because they didn't have enough food. Now we have too much food. You know, things are actually good. Shut the fuck up. Like, you know, individually, you can be a fucking billionaire. Half the idiots in the chat who fucking come in here to be like, you're an enemy to me. You fucking suck. You're a fake socialist. You're a piece of shit. Would turn around and lap up every single thing I'm saying. So much easier to be a fucking grifter and basically, reinforce the preconceived notions that are built into all facets of society and culture. It's so easy to just lap up that kind of propaganda rather than try to educate people and see the world in a different way.